Hi, I'm Tom Scarpello of Revology Cars, and this is car number 318, a 1967 Shelby GT500 Super Snake in forest green metallic with black Napa leather interior. Today I'm going to take you on a walk around of this car, and we're going to go for a drive. Let's get started. All right, 1967 Shelby GT500 Super Snake in forest green metallic. Forest green is a Porsche color. It was first introduced on the 911 in 1989, and it was offered on various 911 and Boxster models over the next several years. It's a very pretty deep green metallic color. This car has the Wimbledon white stripes, and of course, because it's a Super Snake, it has the 3-stripe, which is unique to the Super Snake. Other features that the Super Snake gets is the unique grille with the outboard fog lamps and the polished inserts. The hood also has heat extractors in it, which is unique on the Super Snake. The badging is also unique. Your fender badging says Super Snake, and you also have the Super Snake badging on the dash. This car is also equipped with the optional VN 427 wheels with a polished finish, so they're bright and really fits the aesthetic of the 67 Shelby, although it was not an original wheel. And this car is powered by the Gen 4 version of the 5-liter Coyote. It is supercharged and rated at 710 horsepower. The client opted for the optional full Napa leather, so this is a black Porsche Napa leather, a very fine grain, smells great too. The veneers are genuine walnut, laser cut. This car has the walnut steering wheel, and of course, because it's a Super Snake, you get the prominent Super Snake badge on the dash. However, a really interesting feature about this car that you can't even see is our new pedal package. So what is the new pedal package? Like, looking at it, you can't tell that it's any different. Everything that's different is behind the instrument panel. So what we did was we redesigned the clutch, brake, and accelerator pedal to make them work better. We improved the feel of the clutch pedal, and we changed where the clutch starts to engage. In the old version, the clutch engaged higher in the travel. It worked fine, but it required a little bit of getting used to. And in the new pedal package, the clutch engages much lower, so it has a better feel. Also, with the brake pedal, we changed the leverage ratio, and that gives the brake pedal a much more instantaneous feel. So as soon as you start to tip into the brake, you feel the car start to respond. It gives that sort of immediacy and sense of response that it gives you confidence as a driver. And then finally, with the accelerator pedal, we found that for taller drivers, it could sometimes be a bit uncomfortable, so we were able to reposition it so that it's a bit more ergonomic and more natural. So these are little differences that you'll only notice if you're driving the car. You certainly won't notice if you're just looking at it. And, you know, a lot of people might say, well, why do you do it? There wasn't really anything wrong with the old pedal package. Was it perfect? No. But the truth is, we're always looking for ways to make the cars more fun to drive. It's not just something that you look at, and this just helps. It makes the car feel like you're more connected to it. And that's really important. It gives the driver a sense of confidence. You're able to push it harder, and it talks to you, and you get this dialogue with the car. So no one's gonna know about it except you, the driver, but that's the whole point. All right, let's go for a drive. All right, we're going for a ride in 318. Honestly, this car is so nice to drive. It really is so comfortable. We don't really prep for these videos. I think about what I'm gonna say in advance, but our cameraman, Brandon, who's been with us for over 10 years, is not really aware of what I'm gonna talk about. As we were getting ready to go out for the drive, he says, you know, when I was driving it over here, it felt good. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know you had a new pedal package, but I just noticed that it felt better. And that's the thing that we're trying to achieve. You know, it's all these little incremental improvements. Any one of them by themselves, I mean, unless you're really an expert, you really know the cars. Now, obviously Brandon does. He's been shooting our cars for so many years, he's driven so many of our cars, he picked up on it. But even someone who's not familiar with the cars, if you get enough of these little improvements together collectively, they really make a big difference. You might not be able to isolate what it is that's unique and different, but you just know something's different. Hey, this car feels good. It just feels responsive. It makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel in control. That's really the objective. You know, a lot of people don't really appreciate things that they can't see. If they don't see it, it doesn't add value. And I think people like that are more interested in showing off and not true enthusiasts. They're not really into the machine, into the experience, because an automobile is all about driving. You know, sure, the look is important, but that's just a fraction of what it's about. People talk about these cars as rolling art, and I think that's accurate, but the operative word here is rolling. They're not static, and yes, they look beautiful in your driveway or in your garage or at the car show, but that's not what they're made for. They're made to drive, and that's what we focus on. So this effort that we put into these things that you can't see and that only the owner is going to appreciate, it's worth it for our owners because they do drive the cars. So this was a lot of work to get this pedal package dialed in. Our team benchmarked several current model cars with manual transmissions. One of them a Porsche 911 GT3. One was a current Mustang Mach 1, and one was a 2015 Camaro Z28. And that was useful as a benchmark to be able to develop our pedal package. One of the issues that we deal with when we're trying to upgrade a car whose basic architecture is 60 years old is a lot of these interfaces have to change. So we had to make a new mounting system to the firewall. We had to modify the firewall to accommodate this mounting system for the new pedal package. So it would be a pretty difficult changeover to do to a completed car, but since we build the entire body from scratch, we can make the modifications to the firewall while it's a firewall before it even goes into the car. So it's a lot easier when you build the car from the ground up. You can build it exactly the way that you want to build it. So it gives us more options in terms of the kinds of things that we do. We don't really have to design things for ease of installation, and that gives us a lot more design flexibility, and we can really design components that are the best for the application. So why do we spend so much time and effort on all of these little details that you can't even see? Well, it's because this is what makes an automobile fun to drive, fun to own, and really the driving is what it's all about. Yes, these are beautiful cars, but that's only part of the art. An automobile is really performance art. The dynamic beauty is arguably even more important than the static beauty. How it drives, how it feels, that to me is really the art of the automobile. And that's what we're always working on, always perfecting. And will the market eventually appreciate and understand how different we are from everyone else out there doing this kind of stuff? I think so. I mean, eventually the market finds the truth. When you look back at history, the Toyota Prius, when it first came out, was sort of an oddball car that only a few really enthusiastic people adopted, but it's now very conventional. The Apple Mac, when it first came out, you know, with its user interface and mouse, was really innovative and new, but it wasn't really till Windows came out and kind of validated those features that the Mac really started to take off, and Apple really was on its way becoming what it is today. The Dyson vacuum. You know, Dyson had a prototype working in the early 80s, but it wasn't until the early 90s when really they got any kind of traction in the marketplace. And it was in Japan, of all places, and then later in the UK, but it took a long time. So, you know, it sometimes takes a while for the market to find the truth, but I do believe that the market does eventually find the truth. And I think a lot of people have found out the truth about Revology, and that's why we're growing. That's why we have such high customer loyalty. And that's why we'll continue to do what we're doing.